exceptions. I don't care if you didn't pay your rent last month. There are no exceptions. We are rich. It is hard in America to go to heaven. How many coats are in your closet? Shoes. How many running pairs of shoes? Gloves for every occasion. Every manner of possible electronic device to heat your food. Fast, slow, rough edges, soft edges. Plumbing is in your house. Sewage carried away flawlessly. Pure drinking water. Refrigeration, 911 at your beck and call. I tell you, it is hard to go to heaven in America. Because who knows what you are leaning on until it is taken away. That's why 2 Corinthians 1:9 says, I was crushed to the point of death so that I might trust the one who raises the dead. In other words, everything was taken but resurrection. And that's coming, brothers. So I just plead with God now, get you ready. He wrote and carried to the printer in his last year, The Excellency of a Broken Heart. Isn't that a beautiful title? The Excellency of a Broken Heart. And you know where it comes from. It's based on Psalm 51. And in it, this is his thesis. Conversion is not the smooth, easygoing process some men think it is. It is wounding work, of course, this breaking of hearts. But without wounding, there's no saving. Where there is grafting, there is a cutting. The scion must be let in with a wound. To stick it on the outside or to tie it on with string would be of no use. Heart must be set to heart, back to back, or there will be no sap from the root to the branch. And this, I say, must be done with a wound. If you wonder why there aren't more fruitless people, why there are so many fruitless saints, seeming saints, it may be because there was never a wound. And the vine isn't in the branch. It's tied on and pasted on with a quick booklet or prayer or aisle walking. And so there's no sap flowing. And they're trying to do what you're supposed to be doing. Read the Bible and pray, and you're supposed to feel something in this worship service. And there's no life. And it's scary. The churches are full of that kind of people all over America. And some pulpits have preachers like that. Bunyan was passionate for these things, and he was patient with these things. Listen to this beautiful pastor-patient word. And listen to his language. I wish I had time to talk about Bunyan's language. He and Spurgeon are almost without peer in their use of language, and we need to learn from them in this regard, but I have to leave some things out. But you get a flavor of it here in this beautiful word. 1678, a book called Come and Welcome to Jesus Christ. He was a wooer of men. Coleridge was right. The Calvinism of John Bunyan is the sweetest, most beautiful, most tasty religion in the world. He that comes to Christ cannot, it is true, always get on as fast as he would. Poor coming soul, thou art like the man that would ride full gallop, whose horse will hardly trot. Now the desire of his mind is not to be judged of by the slow pace of the dull jade he rides on. He's talking about his body here. The dull jade he rides on, but by the hitching and the kicking and the spurring as he sits on his back. Thy flesh is like this dull jade. It will not gallop after Christ. It will be backward, though thy soul and heaven lie at stake. We need to talk like that. Let your speech be seasoned with salt, that you may know how to answer every man. Work at your language. Get provocative language into your great old truths so that people either scratch their heads or scream or twinge or something, but don't go to sleep on you and call you boring. The worst damnation of a preacher. Maybe not the worst, but pretty close. He was a very balanced person. One way to illustrate the balance in this issue is he wrote a book in, I didn't put the date down, doesn't matter. He wrote a book in 1 year called Saved by Grace. Ephesians 2:5 was the text. And the very same year, he followed it with a book called The Straight Gate, based on Luke 13:24. Strive to enter at the straight gate, for many, I tell you, will seek to enter in and shall not be able. Can you point to anybody in your church that is seeking to enter the kingdom and not able? I just wonder if our gospel is a biblical gospel when there aren't a few people like that around. We are so scared of having people like that. We want to paste assurance on them so fast, because you can't have people struggling with assurance. You can't have people struggling for their soul and saying, I want to be saved, but I don't know grace in my life. I have no spiritual affections. We say to people, you don't need to have any of those affections. And we got to get people like that fixed so fast that so much of the Puritan experience just seems gone. There's no wrestling like these men wrestled with. The way is hard, Jesus said, that leads to life, and those who find it are few. Bunyan taught that to his people. Number 4, this is my fourth result or function of suffering in his life. Bunyan's suffering strengthened his assurance that God is sovereign over all afflictions of His people and will bring them safely home. Now, there have always been people who try to solve the problem of suffering by denying the sovereignty of God. That is, the all-ruling providence of God over Satan and over nature and over human hearts and deeds. But you know, it is remarkable, as I read church history and biography and look around the world today, it is remarkable to me how many of the people who cherish the full sovereignty of God over will and nature and demons and bodies, the fullest expression of the sovereign control of God, are the people who have suffered most. And thus, from an academic perspective, would have the hardest time rendering an account of theoretically how you can believe in such a thing. And they have found the most comfort in it. And Bunyan was among that number. He wrote a book called Seasonable Counsels, Advice to Sufferers. It was based on one verse. And the verse was 1 Peter 4:19, which goes, let them that suffer according to the will of God commit the keeping of their souls to Him in well-doing, as unto a faithful Creator. And to watch him unpack every word in that is a thrilling thing. Let me give you a taste. He said, it is not, he took the phrase especially, according to the will of God. Suffer according to the will of God. He said, it is not what enemies will, nor what they are resolved upon, but what God will and what God appoints that will be done. No enemy can bring suffering upon a man when the will of God is otherwise.